Welcome back to the Yaffee program. News Talk 770 AM 92.5 FM WVNN. Making radio great again as my job. Some people maybe before me on this station ruin it every day. So then I have to make it great again. I'm just saying. By the way, it is Monday, so you know what that means as well. Time for the Sunday News Show's recap. Giving you the review of what they talked about on those Sunday news talk shows, like CBS Face the Nation, NBC's Meet the Press, Fox News Sunday, and others. The highlights, the interviews, so you don't have to worry about it. You take Sunday off. I recap it for you on Monday, and it's free. This is a free service. You can listen to me for free. What do you know? Or if you miss it live, you can check out the podcast of it as well. My public service to you, you're welcome. So I wanted to play these cuts from Admiral Mike Mullen. He is the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He was on ABC This Week, and he was talking about this whole issue with the USS Abraham Lincoln. That's the aircraft carrier that was over there in the Strait of Hormuz, in the Persian Gulf, near Iran. There were reports of people trying to jump overboard because the stress has been too high for the sailors. And, it wasn't hard to predict. But the Democrats are already saying this is proof that the Iran war is a disaster and that Trump doesn't care about the sailors. It took just a couple of days. They're already doing that. I'll give some examples of that in the next hour, but I wanted to give you somewhat of a voice of reason on this. Now, I'm pretty sure this former chairman of the Joint Chiefs isn't like a big Trump fan or something, but he dug into the matter and he's like, look, this kind of stuff happens. So I'll just go ahead and play the cut. So play cut one of Admiral Mullen for me, Bugsy.
It's significant and it's tough. Those deployments are very, very difficult. Historically, we've been able to typically go to a port to take a break, do maintenance, and then come back online. Even back in Vietnam timeframe, we did that. The problem right now is in the AOR, the places we would do that, Bahrain. In the theater, Bahrain or in the United Arab Emirates, those are targeted right now. In fact, we've, because of that, established a base down in Diego Garcia. But even Diego Garcia, the Iranians have taken a shot at. So the security and the safety and security, obviously these assets is hugely concerning. So there just isn't an easy place to go in terms of a port visit.
So this is what I kind of figured. That there was a logical explanation to why they haven't been to port. I mean, it's mostly because it's been at war, and war can be tough. So he says that it's just because some of those ports have been attacked, so it's for the safety. Go in and play cut two of Mullen for me.
You told me you were a bit appalled by this.
Well, I was certainly, from what I could see in the news reports, that the conditions on the ship were certainly of great concern. Now, I know the commanding officer, in particular the commanding officer of the Lincoln, is working these issues hard. And I also believe the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. Some of these problems, I was connected with Admiral Cooper last night, who was on the ship yesterday, and he told me he had a really good visit. He said many of these problems were early in the deployment and they were solved. But these are morale issues on a ship, which you really have to focus on. And they have been pressed in combat. The number of missions, the accomplishments. Cooper talked about how significant they have been in the war itself. And my experience is these crews will do absolutely everything to make sure the mission goes well. And they clearly have done that on Lincoln.
And
Of course they have. Of course they have. See, I wanted to play these cuts because you needed a reasonable response to this. Someone who is an expert who knows exactly what they're doing there, and it's pretty much what you thought. Go and play cut three of Mullen for me.
And when you're at war, there's always adjustments. You've got to be flexible and adaptable. Things change. So could you plan for this? That would have been pretty difficult to predict.
Exactly. Exactly right. And it's basically what I said last week. When you're dealing, and he wasn't the only one who said this, but when you're dealing with a ship with 5,000 people and you're in a war zone and it's a tough situation, you're always going to have certain people that have a mental health issue. You're always going to have concerns. It's not always going to be fun, but that's why they get training. They get training in boot camp, training in other areas because it's a war. They're preparing for war. So the idea that we should all panic over this and this is somehow proof that Trump just doesn't care about the soldiers and the sailors, the Marines, it's just not true. And we're going to talk more about this because what I said was going to happen has already happened. Didn't take long for the Democrats and the propaganda press to use this line for the midterms. If you want to weigh in, you can. We have the Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. Right now, got to tell you, if you're 65 years or older, I'm going to tell you how you can transform your healthcare experience for the better. That's by going to the website getvipcare.com. VIP Care. It is primary care with a heart for seniors. The senior healthcare model and local clinics are designed for your comfort. You can get same-day appointments. Most doctors don't offer that. More time with your doctor, a team of Medicare experts, and more. Get the care you need so you can enjoy life. Easy to do. Go to getvipcare.com. You can find a clinic right there on the website, getvipcare.com. When you do, let them know Yaffee sent you. We'll be back.
The Yaffee Program.
Start your day with the morning jolt of Drake C. Toll.
See, now it's on demand. My podcast is kind of a radio thing, I think, but also it's a bit of a TV show, and it's about whatever I want it to be. It's listening live as it happened, when it happened, with the instant reaction.
Your home for talking sports.
We go back. The Drake Toll Show, Westwood One Sports Network. And there it will be, on demand, on your radio. Anywhere in the country, I'll see you there.
Westwood One Sports Talk. Your home for Drake C. Toll. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
The Yaffee Program on WVNN.
We're back here on News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM WVNN, the Yaffee Program. So we all knew this was coming. You're going to see ads before the midterms. No doubt the Democrats want to run on affordability. Can't really blame them for that. No doubt they want to run against the Iran war and blame that for the affordability issue. In some ways, you can't blame them. Has risen gas prices. Inflation is higher than it should be. As I mentioned before, when you're talking about credibility, though, I don't know how they have any credibility on that issue. We're still really recovering from the inflation after COVID under Biden. But beyond that, but you're going to see the ads. You're already starting to see it, I'm sure, where they're going to say things were so bad on the USS Abraham Lincoln in Trump's forever war. Proof that Trump doesn't care about you or the sailors, or something to that effect. So we'll talk about that in a moment as we get to the second segment now of the Sunday News Show's recap. Yes, I highlight what was talked about on those Sunday news talk shows like Meet the Press, ABC This Week, and others, because you don't have to worry about it on Sunday. You don't have to worry about the news at all on Sunday. You're probably a news junkie like me, but you're busy Sunday. I get it, going to church, whatever, watching reruns of Gunsmoke or something. So don't worry about it. I'll let you know what's going on. I'll tell you what you need to know on Monday. You don't have to worry about it on Sunday. My public service to you. And no, we don't accept any taxpayer funds to do this segment. You're welcome. You're welcome. So, yes, this whole issue came up on the Sunday news talk shows. Give an example here. You have Maryland Governor Wes Moore, who was talking about this on CNN's State of the Union. Just a reminder, there were reports on the USS Abraham Lincoln that sailors were stressed. Some tried to jump overboard. There was a shortage of food. They hadn't gone to port in a while. Stressful situations, I'm sure, but this is being used for a political agenda. Going to play a Wes Moore cut one, Bugsy.
I mean, not only are these conditions and the reports of the conditions heartbreaking, the response of the president of the United States pisses me off. And it should piss all of us off. But you know what? I would have hoped that since he's never been forward deployed, since he's never put on the uniform and sacrifice for this country, that he would have more compassion for the people who are willing to, that he would have more compassion for their family members who are willing to offer their loved ones to this country because they love this country so much. And instead of saying, I'm going to look into this and I'm going to get to the root of this and I'm going to figure out what's going on, and we are going to make sure we're protecting those who are willing to protect us, his response is their deployments haven't lasted long enough, while he continues to rake in billions of dollars on a war that nobody understands and that all of us are paying for.
By the way, this idea that nobody understands it, I don't think that's true, honestly. Now, what he was talking about, he was reacting to something President Trump said when Trump was asked about it over the weekend. In fact, kind of reminds you, go ahead and play Trump Cut 1 for me, Bugsy.
That ship is moving right now, or very shortly, and it's being replaced with another very similar ship.
Has the deployment gone on too long?
No. Not nearly long enough.
All right. So they're mad because he said not nearly long enough. Now you know why he's saying that. Because the propaganda press and Democrats like Wes Moore right now, they're being useful idiots for the enemy. That's what's happening. With all of this outrage over maybe somewhat stressful conditions on an aircraft carrier during a war, that is propaganda for the enemy. I'm sorry. So Trump is trying to counter that. Now, you know I've always said that 10% more discipline from Trump would be better. And so, yes, I think a response like that, he could have phrased it better, as he could in a lot of situations. But this idea, he said that because he doesn't care. Come on. It's just stupid. Go to play Wes Moore Cut 2.
And so the same frustrations that I had when this war first started about you were putting us into a situation where our military can do anything, but we shouldn't be asked to do everything. And now we are continuing to fight this foreign forever war for a commander-in-chief who seems to have not one modicum of concern for the people who are out there fighting it, nor for the family members who are not in contact with their loved ones. And so I would just hope that as a president of the United States, but more importantly, as the commander-in-chief, you would actually have more concern for your people and have more concern for not just their well-being, but also putting them in missions that are explainable, that are understandable, and that are winnable. Because right now, frankly, we're not seeing any of those things taking place with this war in Iran that he started.
Now, I will say this. One, as I mentioned, I don't think it's as bad as he's saying. I will say Trump could do a better job communicating the goals of the war. But I've said that since the beginning. He could have done a better job rallying the American people behind the war. That is at least one part I agree with, but the rest of the stuff, he doesn't care. They literally just sent another aircraft carrier over there, which was already planned so those soldiers could go to a port. They could get a break. I played the cuts of Admiral Mullen in the last segment, explaining what's really going on there. But he wasn't the only Democrat. We also have Ruben Gallego, who was on ABC this week, talking about this. Play the Ruben cut for me, Bugsy.
Well, I'm glad they're resolving their problems now, but where was the leadership for so long that it got to this point? And I think later on he says, this is a problem of a long ago. I was just speaking to a spouse just about 3 days ago, and this is the current problems right now. And then it really goes to the deep problem here is that this administration did not plan for this war, did not plan how to get out of this war, did not really understand how this war was going to escalate. They were basically trying and hoping that this war would end up just like the war in Venezuela, and our men and women are now suffering the consequences of that. There's a deep mistrust of this leadership. The Secretary of Defense is absolutely not qualified to be leading the Department of Defense. And certainly the president has shown that he just doesn't really care about the troops. His lackadaisical attitude about men and women and their deployments, just kind of reflects what he actually thinks about them. He thinks about them more as toys and as ways to basically, show off or show its strength, but not the fact that they truly, at the end of the day, are humans, they're Americans, and they have families. And these things, these deployments, these wars have consequences.
All right, so he said the line. Last week on the show, I literally told you that's what they're going to say, and then he just said it. And then he went on, he sees them as toys. This is all to get campaign ads to run against Trump in the midterm based on something that's been completely misrepresented. Now, he's a Democrat from Arizona, so not too surprising there. Go ahead and play cut 2 of Gallego for me.
As of 3 days ago, she was sharing with me text messages that her husband was forwarding to her, as well as pictures. So whatever the admiral was saying that this is a problem of the past, that's really not the case. Now, there is a problem also of the future. Right now, the aircraft carrier is going to undergo a lot of maintenance. You're going to have problems with retention once people get back and families start meeting again. They're going to say, do I want to stay in the Navy? You're going to have some of the most experienced men and women. They're going to take a lot of their technical skills and walk away because they don't want to serve in a U.S. Navy that treats them in such manner, that makes fun of them. You have some of the cabinet members, as well as acting cabinet members in the Navy and things of that nature, that are basically downplaying their sacrifice. So when they get back to home, when they start having that conversation with their wife or with their husband, is it worth rejoining? They're going to have to think twice because look at how this leadership is treating them. And that, again, is a true lack of leadership from Secretary of Defense, as well as the president, and just an attitude that kind of pervades the whole Department of Defense, where they just look at these men and women as being expendable.
Now, look, I think there's an argument to be said here that Trump probably did think this would happen quicker. It would be similar to Venezuela or something. We'd be out of there by now. I agree with that. But you're going to face that in most wars. In pretty much every war we have fought in this country, it doesn't go as planned. War never goes really as planned. There's always something that happens. There are always tough circumstances. You have to change things later on. This idea, because some sailors had it tough for a little bit, that they're just going to not join the Navy. And this is terrible. If this is such a problem from our war with Iran, how in the world are we ever going to be able to win a war against China? Seriously. If this is so outrageous, then we have more problems than just lack of leadership. But as I mentioned, I don't think it's as big of a problem as they're saying. Now, someone who is a little bit of a voice of reason on this, you have a Republican representative out of New Hampshire, Don Bacon, was talking about this as well. Play a Don Bacon cut 1 for me.
It would have been better to acknowledge, hey, long deployments are hard. I did 1 year in Iraq. I had three other deployments to Iraq or the area that were shorter. But when I was in Iraq for a year, there were Marines and soldiers there for 18 months. So I think it's better to acknowledge, hey, this is hard on the families. It's hard on the service members. Thank them for being willing to defend our country and doing these 10-month deployments if you're on an aircraft carrier. I think that would have been a much more better way of addressing this issue. It is hard on families. We should acknowledge that. But we've done it for previous wars and deployments, and we'll have to do so in the future. I think that's a better way to phrase it.
Okay. I mean, no doubt Trump could have phrased it better. But go and play cut 2 of Don Bacon for me.
And we should have oversight. We should bring in the Secretary of the Navy or the commander, the service chief of the Navy, and have them explain to us the truth on that. But I served on an aircraft carrier as an Air Force guy during my 30 years in the Air Force. And we had some of these incidences when I was on the carrier. This was back in 1996 when we weren't at war. We were doing the southern no-fly zone for Iraq. We were trying to deter Iran, but we had a couple members jump overboard and commit suicide while I was on that deployment. So these incidences, they're terrible, they're sad, but it has happened previously, and unfortunately, likely in the future as well.
Exactly. Look, I was never in the Navy. My mom was in the Navy. I've had family members in the Navy, friends that were in the Navy. I was never in the Navy. But I always knew, of course, in a situation like this, you're going to have with that many people, you're going to have some issues. No matter what war it is, no matter what we're doing here. And we've had them in the past. It's exactly what he is saying. It's a reasonable response. We all know he is right, but, well, I mean, that doesn't help Democrats get elected. So we have to twist this in a certain way. It's crazy, but entirely predictable. I could brag about predicting it but I'm sure you saw it coming as well. If you want to weigh in, you can. We have the Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. We'll have more of the Sunday News Show's recap next here on the Yaffee program.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN.
Start your day with the morning jolt of Drake C. Toll.
See, now it's on demand. My podcast is kind of a radio thing, I think, but also it's a bit of a TV show, and it's about whatever I want it to be. It's listening live as it happened, when it happened, with the instant reaction.
Your home for talking sports.
We go back. The Drake Toll Show, Westwood One Sports Network. And there it will be, on demand, on your radio. Anywhere in the country, I'll see you there.
Westwood One Sports Talk. Your home for Drake C. Toll. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
We are back here on the Yaffee program. News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. It is time to believe in America again as the Democrat Socialists try to hate the country. They do hate the country. They're trying to convince you to hate the country, unfortunately. And we'll talk about that in a moment. I do see some on the text line here reacting to what the Democrats are predictably doing when it comes to what was going on the USS Abraham Lincoln, the aircraft carrier. One person said, "Hi, Yaffee, do you have the specifics of the conditions on the ship or ships deployed to Iran that soldiers or sailors are complaining about? If you do, I'd like to hear them." The reports were that it was an extended stay out there without a port call. So they were running low on certain supplies, plus it just adds to the stress level because you have to be, on guard basically all day because you're in an active war zone. Beyond that, I don't really know what else would add to that. Another person said this. This was David weighing in. He said, what's hilarious to me is anyone actually believing the Democrats give a rat's tail about the military. We all know they loathe the military, thus proving your point. This is a clearly a political motive, which it is. So there you go. Time for the final segment now, though, of the Sunday News Show's recap. All right, there you go. Recapping what happened on the Sunday News Talk Show so you don't have to worry about it. My public service to you, you're welcome. How to play these cuts of Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries in the House. He was on NBC's Meet the Press. You can tell that even he's getting a little concerned about the Democrat Socialists, mostly because he thinks they're going to take over his power in the Democrat Party. Interesting what came up here, though. Going to play Jeffries cut one for me, Bugsy.
Well, I expect that there will be at least 220 members of the House Democratic Caucus when we take back the majority, if not a number much greater than that. And what is clear is that the American people want us to focus on driving down the high cost of living and dealing with the affordability crisis that has created a situation in this country where far too many people are working hard, they're playing by the rules, but they can't thrive and can barely survive, which is why we, as House Democrats, are committed to fighting for an affordable America every day, every week, every month, until we solve this crisis.
All right, so they want to make affordability the issue. Man, Hakeem Jeffries is so good at just saying the lines. There's not really any depth to what he's saying. It's just the talking points. I get that they get talking points, but he just constantly repeats them. But they're trying to run on affordability, and, understandably so. It seems to be working for them, actually. But going to play cut two of Jeffries.
Listen, I don't support the DSA agenda as has been articulated by the DSA itself. Now, you're going to have individual members who have been elected in Democratic primaries, and if they are elected in the general in November, will be part of the House Democratic Caucus. It's going to be a broad caucus. There will be progressives, there will be New Dems, there will be Blue Dogs. What I'm excited about are the candidates who are running to flip seats in November to deliver us a majority that pushes back against Donald Trump's extremism and moves the country in the right direction. That means us, House Democrats, lowering the high cost of living in areas like groceries and gas and, of course, housing, and fighting to make health care affordable for every single American, while at the same period of time pushing back against the corruption that has been unleashed on the American people and holding the crooks accountable beginning on day one in January of next year.
So he's doing his best, trying to unite the coalition of socialist moderates, blue dogs, whatever, traditional liberals. We'll see if that happens. He thinks you can unite them behind anti-Trumpism and affordability. I still think it's interesting when they talk about we're going to fix the cost of living. How? Seriously, what is your plan? The only thing I heard him say when it came to a plan was he wants to bring back more Medicaid subsidies. Is that the plan to address affordability? Is just to, I guess maybe the Iran war? I don't know. What is their plan? We're going to fix the cost of living. How? Just by throwing more government dollars at it all? I think that's it. I think that's their plan. So, okay, that's not going to work. But all right. Coming up next, we're going to have What's Trending with Bugsy. I'll end the show with the Yaffee program Rewind as well. You are listening to the Yaffee program. Back in just a moment.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
The U.S. Soccer Podcast.
These players are battered and exhausted, but you don't hurt like this if you don't care about this team, about this country, about this game.
I think you can feel the intensity,
the goals, the energy, wow, look at us.
Here in the U.S., I have got some news for you. There's so much more to come. My name is Megan Klingberg, and we're just getting started.
The U.S. Soccer Podcast, presented by Henkel. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.